Moving on to our next speaker, I'm glad he's able to join us. He'll be joining us officially in the fall. Is Nek Sharan. He did his PhD in Illinois, a postdoc at Caltech, and he's doing a postdoc now at Los Alamos. And the image like you see there would break a lot of computers. But he's finding ways to do these things faster, better, cheaper, which is always the idea with CFD. And we're excited to have him join us. So, Nek, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you great.
Great. Okay, thank you, Brian. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Nek Sharan, and my research is broadly in the area of computational fluid dynamics, where I develop numerical methods, solvers, and models for prediction and control of turbulent flows for aerospace applications. In this talk, I'll give an overview of my research, which, as the title of the talk indicates, is targeted towards enabling multiphysics simulations. So fluid flows of interest in aerospace applications are generally multiphysics. That is, they involve coupling of various physical phenomena, some of which are listed here on the left. To give an example, consider the flow shown on the right here of the underside of a Boeing 777 aircraft. So the flow here is unsteady, compressible, and turbulent, and it is strongly influenced by the landing gear, the undercarriage doors, as well as the high lift devices on the wings, such as the flaps and the slats. So a numerical computation of flows like this would require tools that are capable of handling these complex geometries and the issues of mesh generation that arise in such complex domains. So because of these complex geometry issues and other issues associated with multiphysics simulations, well-calibrated CFD tools currently do not exist for the whole flight envelope. In fact, they exist only for the dashed regions shown in this flight envelope for a commercial aircraft. Another example where multiphysics simulation is needed is in the design and analysis of gas turbine jet engines. Again, due to the interaction of high Reynolds number compressible flows with the complex geometry that is involved here, but also due to the extreme pressure and temperature conditions that exist in the combustion chamber of the engines. So the fuel in these gas turbine jet engines are injected into supercritical environment, and there is phase change and then sudden heat release with combustion. So reliable CFD tools also do not exist to robustly simulate combustion in gas turbine, or for that matter, diesel or liquid rocket engines. So addressing any of these challenges could potentially save billions of dollars in aircraft and jet engine design. And so these challenges have been referred to as, or have been recognized as, the grand challenges in CFD. So my work is targeted towards addressing some of these challenges, and in that effort, I, with collaborators here at Los Alamos lab as well as at NASA JPL, have developed a flow solver that would allow us to simulate some of those complex configurations. So this solver is capable of performing DNS and LES of incompressible as well as compressible flows. It supports both perfect and real gas conditions and transport properties that allow multi-species calculations. And for purposes of computational efficiency as well as algorithmic simplicity, we choose to have structured grids, and on top of that we use CUTSIL or overset grids to handle complex domains. I'll talk more about this later in the talk, and more details about these numerical methods could be found in the paper that are listed at the bottom. Now, we have tested these solvers for scalability over thousands of processors, and it supports both shared and parallel memory and shared and distributed memory parallelization. So my research work could be broadly put into two categories. First, the topics that deal with understanding and modeling of flow physics, and secondly, topics that deal with development of computational methods and tools. So I thought I would spend a few minutes discussing my work in each of these categories. So starting with the flow physics work, the best way to understand the turbulence behavior in a canonical configuration without numerically contaminating it with modeling errors is to perform direct numerical simulation that resolves all the relevant flow scales. However, because of the resolution needs, it restricts the Reynolds numbers to low or moderate values. And in my work, I have performed direct numerical simulations of free shear flows as well as wall-bounded shear flows. And here are the movies for canonical jet as well as flat plate boundary layer configurations. And there is extensive experimental as well as computational results for these configurations at perfect gas conditions. And so we have used those results to validate our solver. So detailed turbulence statistics exist at perfect gas conditions. However, similar measurements have not been performed at the high pressure conditions that are encountered in diesel gas turbine or liquid rocket engines. So to give you an idea of the kind of pressure conditions that exist in the gas turbine engine, this is a plot of the peak combustor pressure with time in various engines over the years. So different colors here show different manufacturers. The dashed line here is the critical pressure for the air. The dashed line here is the critical pressure for an aviation fuel. So as you can see, with time, the pressure in the combustion chambers have increased, and in recent times, most gas turbine engines have combustor pressures that are higher than the critical pressure of both the fuel and the oxidizer. Now, these high pressure conditions are useful because they improve the thermodynamic efficiency of the engines, and they also lead to burning in fuel lean conditions that reduces emissions. So to look at these conditions in a thermodynamic state plane shown here for single species where the values are non-dimensionalized using the critical value. So these conditions here lie in this top right quadrant of the thermodynamic state plane. However, most of the fundamental turbulence study experiments as well as computations have been performed at atmospheric conditions in this quadrant here. So to understand how the turbulence behaves and if we could influence mixing in these high pressure supercritical conditions, we performed various direct numerical simulations at different thermodynamic conditions and with different injection conditions to see if how turbulent mixing could be enhanced or inhibited at engine conditions. And more details about this study could be found in the paper listed below, which is available on arXiv. Now, as I mentioned, a direct numerical simulation has high resolution requirements, so we get restricted to low or moderate Reynolds numbers. But to perform practical simulations at Reynolds numbers of engineering interest, we have also looked at large eddy simulations and mixing estimates from large eddy simulations to give you an idea of the computational savings that a large eddy simulation would provide. So this is a simple temporal shear layer configuration. We have a right and a left moving fluid, and this is the mixed fluid composition at the final time at which the Reynolds number is shown here. So this DNS at this Reynolds number took over 8 billion grid points, whereas the LES required only around 17 million grid points. So this run took only a few hours, whereas the DNS run took a couple of weeks on 1,000 processors. So while an LES gives us huge cost savings in terms of computation time, we have to acknowledge the modeling challenges that arise with LES. To give you an idea of the challenge that arises, this is the scalar spectra in a DNS, and it spans various decades here. And these are the spectra that one would obtain from an LES calculation, which would not go to the dissipation scale. And we have this gap or the missing physics that we need to model with LES. So these are different LES runs with different subgrid scale models, and as you can see, they all provide a different estimate of the energy spectra. So in the work listed below, we looked at how we can accurately generate the missing physics here, that is the subgrid scale effects. In particular, we looked at modeling of the scalar dissipation rate, which is an important quantity that is required in all combustion models, be it flamelet model or a PDF model. So we have looked at how to get robust mixing estimates with LES calculations, and that is expected to reduce the computational cost by a huge margin. Now, numerical calculation gives us detailed flow statistics for all quantities. So we have also looked at acoustic noise in supersonic jets. In this particular case, we have looked at imperfectly expanded supersonic jets that produce these screech tones, which are high amplitude noise at specific frequencies, and we have matched it with the experimental results. So moving on to my work on the development of numerical methods and tools. So when performing these high Reynolds number mixing calculations with LES, there are several numerical challenges that arise. First is that because our grid scale is here rather than here, we have a lot more energy at the grid scale. And so most of the errors get amplified. So for example, the dispersion error gets amplified, and our species mass fractions could become unphysical. That is, our species mass fraction could become greater than 1 or could become negative, which could lead to spurious combustion in our simulations. So this was the first issue that we encountered with our LES mixing calculations, and we looked at addressing it using numerical methods, and we found that a low order method or a total variation diminishing method could address this problem. That is, this excursion, which is the overshoot in our species mass fraction value, could be mitigated by using these low order methods. But it also introduces this artificial dissipation, which leads to erroneous mixing estimates. So this is not a viable solution for high fidelity simulation. So we developed a new method, a limiting approach, which would give us the right energy spectra and at the same time would address this overshoots or undershoots of these mass fraction. And more details of this approach could be found in the paper that's listed below. Now, a lot of my work is focused on developing robust approaches for handling complex domains. As I mentioned, we choose to use structured grids for reasons of computational efficiency, as well as for the simplicity it provides in adding new algorithms to our solver. And with a structured grid, there are two popular ways of handling complex domains. One is using an overset approach, and the other is a cut cell approach. To quickly describe these methods, let's consider that a flow around a cylinder as shown here. The overset approach would have a body conforming grid around the cylinder, which is overlaid on a base Cartesian grid, and one will have exchange of information across the grid. In contrast, a cut cell approach would have a single Cartesian grid that will cut through the solid body. And if we look near the cylinder, we'll identify grid points that are inside the solid, blank those grid points, and add new grid points at the intersection of grid lines with the solid body. So this highly simplifies mesh generation because we don't need any additional mesh, and we can do with just a single mesh. But we need numerical approximations for this non-uniform grid spacing that arises at the boundary. And so a lot of my work has been focused on developing robust high order estimates for such grid configurations. Now, overset and cut cell configurations have been extensively used for aerodynamic calculations, and these are a couple of examples of grids from NASA's solver that uses overset as well as these cut cell grids. However, they have not been used for high fidelity turbulent flow simulations because of several issues with existing methods. And one of the major issues is of numerical instabilities that arise at these overset or cut cell boundaries. And that handling these instabilities requires using a low order method or adding artificial dissipation, which I showed could lead to erroneous mixing estimates. So those are not viable solution for high fidelity calculations that I'm looking to perform. To give you an idea of the kind of instabilities that arise in a simple setting, consider this Cartesian grid and an overlaying mesh as shown here, and we solve for a vortex flow over this overset mesh, and we let the vortex go through the domain multiple times. So on the top is density, and on the bottom is a surface plot of density error. You'll see that the density starts growing in the patch and slowly it spreads to other parts of the domain, and it corrupts the solution everywhere. So addressing this problem requires adding again artificial dissipation or lowering the overall order of accuracy of the numerical scheme. A similar issue could be seen with cut cell methods. So existing cut cell methods, if we run without additional stabilization or dissipation, would generate these kind of instabilities at the boundaries. That is, the error will grow exponentially with time. So what we have done with my work here is developed robust methods that could provably satisfy stability conditions for these grids. And what that does is it allows us to simulate without adding dissipation or lowering the order of accuracy. So we get this uniform high order of accuracy up to 6th order of accuracy in the interior. So on the top is the time stable method that we have developed, and on the bottom is the existing approach that is used in most of the overset solver. We did a similar thing for cut cell grids, where again on the left is our existing approaches that are not provably time stable, whereas on the right is a method that we have developed, we have derived to prove stability for these grid configurations. Now, this time stable method could run for extremely long periods of time without having to introduce artificial dissipation. So these are well suited for the direct numerical simulation mixing calculations that we are interested in. So with the method that was not time stable, the solution grows exponentially in a short period of time, whereas these methods could remain stable for very, very long times. Now we have tested these methods for a variety of viscous and inviscid problems, and I'll not go into the details of these, but you can find the stability and the accuracy properties of these methods in the paper that is listed below. So in a recent project, I'm also working on developing a robust multi-scale method that would allow us to compute flows that span continuum to rarefied regimes, so low to high Knudsen numbers. So this the target problem here is to simulate the Enceladus jets that were observed by Cassini, which are exiting into vacuum, and to understand the turbulence or the fundamental jet behavior in these configurations to determine the kind of fluctuations that occur in these jets, which may be useful for prospective NASA missions that look to drop probes inside these jets. Now, this method or the solver will also be useful in simulating strong shocks where the mean free path becomes equal to the shock thickness. And we are also applying this approach to perform strong shock simulations for inertial confinement fusion. So to quickly conclude, we have developed a range of unique simulation capabilities that allow us to perform DNS and LES of mixing and combustion in engine relevant conditions. We are also developing methods that will allow us to simulate flows over a range of Knudsen numbers, and we have developed a computational tool that will highly simplify mesh generation for complex geometries and will allow us to perform high fidelity numerical computations. So with that, thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to take any questions. So I have put my email address here for the time being as I'm waiting for my credentials at Auburn to be set up.
Yeah, we'll fix that soon enough. But thank you very much. And you can see there's a lot that goes into these computations, so it's good to have somebody that's thinking about it very, very deeply. I do think we need to move on, and certainly we'll be posting these again online. So thank you again, Nick.
Thank you.